Hi, everyone. Shauna Robinson, Wellness A to Z, and I'm here with Mason Taylor, who is the founder of Superfeast, which is a tonic herb company. I'm a huge fan. We met last year at a conference, and I, ingratiated myself to all Aussies in the same way I use a word that I can't say right now. So, but anyway, I learned
A
what?
to the C bomb.
Yeah, exactly. It's my favorite. It's a little polarizing, but anyway, I fell in love with these products when I started to use them. I am a huge fan of the Jing, specifically the adrenal tonic, but we're going to talk all about his company and how he started it and just what he's doing now. So, without further ado, Mason, how are you?
Yeah, really good. Thanks for having me. Sorry if you can hear a little bit of drilling in the background, but my chicken coop's going up, so
That's
Nico's working away at that.
awesome. No, I love that. That's amazing. Well, at least there's still things going on. I mean, there's still action happening, so that's cool.
Yeah, getting eggs is essential.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. That's great. That's amazing.
Mm.
So, how did you
Um,
start Superfeast? I mean, that it's. I mean, I know it started, sort of small, and it's obviously, blown up into this like big thing. But you have this background, or you had your own. I cannot speak English. It is late in the day. So, but anyway, you have your own journey of how it started. So, I'd love to hear that.
yeah, I did. It was really slow and steady. I started in 2011. A couple of years before that, I'd had my classic kind of getting into my body kind of moment where I was like, I don't like the trajectory that I'm taking with my health. I was tired and had like fungal issues, so I had like a compromised immune system, etc. And I was in my early 20s, good time to kind of catch it and get onto that. I'd been traveling around the world, and then when I got back to Australia, I just kind of dove into the deep end of health. And I was basically looking for potentiation practices. So, on my last year of uni, I kept on coming back to um, Taoism, Taoist tonic herbalism, because these were the types of herbs that you didn't need to be symptomatic in order to be drawn to and have a space to navigate through. Because I was, in my early 20s, I had fungus and I was tired, but that still, I was still robust. And so I didn't have that problem solution mentality really driving me. And so that was important for me at the time. And so included in the tonic herbal world is medicinal mushrooms, as well as lots of roots and barks and animal herbs and mineral herbs. And these were the ones that those ancient Chinese health nuts. We kind of use the term Taoist tonic herbs, but before they were Taoists, they were just men and women, whoever, just getting out into nature, trying to immerse themselves and understand themselves through understanding the five elements of their own body. Just feeling what's going on. They found that there were particular spots, they'd head into the hills, and when you have a look at those spots, what was, like common was a commonality. It's like, yes, there might be vortexes and high vibe and places like Wudang Mountain but there was lots of spring water, right? And there were lots of herbs, and there was wild tea growing. And so over centuries and millennia, there became an understanding, and the Chinese are really good at documenting, which is really good for us, the herbs that they saw as being superior. So about just over 2,000 years ago, Shen Nong's Materia Medica, which is a collation of many millennia of herbal usage. And as everyone starts going into more civilization, it's handy having a Materia Medica telling us what herb for, when, why, etc. Just giving us a bit of a roadmap. And so there were the inferior herbs, they were kind of like, act like drugs when you're really sick, the regular herbs, which were particularly for symptoms. And then there were the superior herbs that they saw. Hey, grandmas and the health nuts using these in basically getting them ensconced in their diet. Long term, basically, they've got this element of their life, and they're just drinking teas and making all kinds of concoctions, and the ginsengs and the gojis and euphomia barks, the hishu woos, the rishis, the cordyceps, the white atractylodes, the deer antler velvets. These were those herbs that they saw as though they revered them, because the point of a superior herb. And so basically I'm doing all this research before I start Superfeast, right? And so the point of these superior herbs in that context is to cultivate life, right? So when in order to cultivate life, for them, and I like this mentality as well, we're just supporting the body through our lifestyle, through our hydration, sun exposure, the way we're managing our emotions and our flow, and bringing our virtuous nature and taking our herbs, so on and so forth, our diet especially. of course, breathwork, movement, qigong, is we're trying to ensure that we have a smooth transition consistently from yin to yang to yin and everything in between. That's really highlighted through the five elements. And so yin yang wu xing, five elements, is the basis for Taoist tonic herbalism, and it doesn't need to get much more complicated than that, as long as we're having a beautiful, smooth changing of qi through the liverwood and through the heart fire, so on and so forth, and we can get into that cycle just as nature has a nice, smooth cycle. Then in that, when we get into that flow, you start tonifying life, which is captured with the three treasures, the three constitutional energies of everything, but our body as well. The Jing energy, our kidneys, our potential, our physical potential, governing our marrow, governing our brain, and our capacity for physical longevity as well. It has a lot to do with genetic expression over time, and sexual vigor. And then the treasure of our chi, which is the spark in the machine, and our vitality. You love that. You love that conversation, and I assume everyone listening is kind of becoming more and more informed of that world. And then the third treasure being our shen, which is our capacity to bring our quiet our mind and bring our spirit through our physicality and continue to develop wisdom as we go along. They saw that as a fundamental element of life and how to cultivate life. And so there's many things that support that, and there was a particular type of herbalism, Taoist tonic herbalism, that they saw over decades of usage in reflection, or decades of usage in one lifetime. They would reflect. Actually, it was really pivotal. Consuming these herbs and learning how to understand these herbs when it was appropriate time in my life to take them as a part of my diet, not as a part of like a symptomology and there's something wrong here. And so therefore we over thousands of years, we have this, yes, clinical usage of these herbs, but we have this lifestyle usage of these herbs, and that really inspired me. And it's important distinction. Like with tonic herbalism, we understand the bridge between, say, clinical usage of herbs over to when we're really just getting into our consistent lifestyle usage, where we don't really have problems and we're trying to keep ourselves out of the clinic, and ensuring we know that line. We're going to be talking about adaptogens. Of course, adaptogens are really hot right now, and they have been for the last 2 years. And so they should be, those adaptogens, especially coming into prevalence around the 70s in terms of a Western knowledge. The Russians start studying for astronauts and athletes and military, and they start saying there's these herbs, pulling them from Ayurveda and Taoism, especially from northern China. They're researching reishi, schizandra, ginseng, Siberian ginsengs, ashwagandhas, and they're seeing there's these herbs in their classification, which is a very Western mindset of classifying herbs as being those herbs that they're not causing any additional harm or stress on the body, which is beautiful. But again, I like to bring, that's dependent. You got to have the herb in context and appropriate for your body. Then of course you're not going to create any more harm or stress. Then secondarily, it's going to have an accumulative effect on the body. This is to make it an adaptogen. The longer you take it, the better it's going to get. And there's some nuance there as well. And then third is it's going to have a non-specific action, which, I think something, everyone's kind of really understanding about the medicinal mushrooms at the moment, that they're immune modulating. They're not necessarily immune stimulating. And so in that instance, you can see these are an adaptogen because they're going and hitting particular receptors within our gut immune tissue, gut-associated lymph tissue, and that's digesting these beta-glucan compounds through our digestive system and releasing that digested long-chain sugar, and then hitting other receptors. And we're seeing, yes, a stimulation in one sense, but it's also being used in like an autoimmune condition. So, hang on, it can't just be stimulating. Through turning on the lights of the immune system and getting a free flow of qi and a capacity for the spleen qi, especially, and the lung qi, especially, to regulate itself, then we're seeing the immune system regulate its own inflammatory pathways, so on and so forth. So that's an adaptogen. And so that's getting, adaptogens are really hot right now, but they fall under, tonic herbalism is the banner, and there's mushrooms and berries and barks, as I said, and then many of those you can classify as adaptogens, right? And so, but it's not what we kind of necessarily focus on. I feel like it's quite important to kind of get that clear to begin with.
Yeah, I love that it is a prolonged and sustained approach at taking adaptogens. It's not like, I'm going to have Schizandra tea or, ashwagandha and I'm immediately going to feel better. It's like, no, it's just like,
Mm.
anything else with, to me with Chinese medicine, it's an approach. It's, this, like, you have to do it. It's part of your lifestyle. You don't just go to 3 acupuncture appointments and magically you're healed and everything is great. So I think that it is a really important distinction to make for sure. So you had your own, you had this as your health journey. You did all of this research. You're such a wealth of information. Every time we talk, I'm like, oh my God, he just knows so much. And I learn something each and every time. So you decided to start this company.
Oh
And
yeah.
yeah,
I was like, I got out of uni and I was like, I don't know what to do, Mum. What am I going to do with my
I
life?
still don't know what
And
to do. And I'm way well out of uni. So faking it.
um, well, yeah, my mum thankfully was, she'd started her business, and so she was just like, look, you're banging on about all these herbs. Why don't you go and start a company? And so, without having really worked in a company or knowing anything about business, I'm a real dive in the deep end person. It bites me in the ass sometimes, but I'm a better person for doing it now. But it's been a bit of a rough ride. So here I've gotten clipped on the ears a couple of times by the journey. So I started in Mum's spare room in 2011, just in the inner west of Sydney, just in a suburban area. And I just chipped away and chipped away, just keep on doing markets, kept on showing up and doing workshops well before reishi was known or a thing, when people were throwing up in their mouths when I was telling them to put mushrooms in their coffee. And, like, I just didn't expect it to really to go anywhere. I've tapped into, like, the people in LA who had brought, and New York, who had brought over that Taoist herbal lineage to the West, and I was learning off them. So in my mind, we'd already had the peak of awareness of these types of herbs and adaptogens even. And so it was a surprise when, like, 4 or 5 years ago, my fiance started working in the company with us, and we just started hitting it, with bringing in education pieces of this, this lifestyle that's revolving around the herbs, and trying to ensure that we were taking the pressure off the herbs being this real, just being on this pedestal that was going to provide all these, as you said, do 3 acupuncture appointments and you're going to be all right. There's a bit of a, there's always a risk for things becoming a fad, and so we were consistently doing that and grounding into this philosophy that, was just the way we all live, to try and enable people to have more of a long-term relationship with their herbal practice, and a little bit of that, like, cool, get excited about it when you get into it. It is exciting creating something new and bringing something new, and make your concoctions and share it out on Instagram. And then at some point you feel, you'll hit the plateau and you'll just get into the, really grinding with your herbal practice. And that's the point where you really shut up and you get into more of a yin state with your herbal practice, and really get to, allow it to point out certain aspects of, of your body, and how your body likes to build these treasures of Jing, Qi, Shen. And you really go, undergo this psychological evolution as you move along. And you need, at some point, you need to acknowledge you're going to need, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years of reflection, of interacting with nature's medicines, when there's been nothing wrong per se, to really drive you, if you want to get over these experiential humps of being a real wise person when you get older. And wise, I mean, like, you know your body, and you know what your body needs, because you've gone and had these experiences, and you've taken responsibility. It's a part of health sovereignty. It's a part of really insisting upon ourselves gently and over time, because we're coming from a heavily institutionalized culture, to stop leaning on institutions little bit by little bit. And don't be extreme about it. We don't need to push back and identify, by rejecting the Western world and Western medicine and all that kind of stuff, but a slow coming back into ourselves, and finding a sustainable way for us to be responsible. So, I mean, it's just herbs. And for some people, it is just herbs, and we want to be that company. It's like, if you just want herbs, sweet, we got rad fucking herbs, and we've got incredible, like, they're Chinese tonic herbs. So we go to the valleys and the mountains of China, and we got, small batch farmers that are doing it the old style, D-Dao style, which is, D-Dao's literally just ensuring the genetics, the seed or the spore of the herb or mushroom is, like, right there from the region. And then you're going off the old texts from 2000 and then some sooner years ago, that say there are specific growing conditions that give you the absolute most potential out of that herb. So it has the most heavenly chi, because they saw the tonic herbs, as these messengers from heaven. And the superior herbs were about connecting us to heaven, right? And so, and our more virtuous nature over the long term, which you can see, if you If you have immunity, if you take reishi, which is a Shen tonic, calming the nervous system in a Western sense, but developing our Shen, quietening the heart, quietening the mind, so we can get into more meditative states, so we can, be more rad. So if you've got that going on, it's, you're immunologically potentiated. It's hepatoprotective. It's a beautiful lung tonic as well, and protective in that manner. It's getting in tonifying bone marrow and our capacity to hold white blood cell count. If you're kind of on and off appropriately taking reishi over 40 years, and then maybe you've got some Shazandra in there, which is, potentiating your liver wood flow, helping you, just like, if you're processing on that level, maybe you're processing your resentment and anger a little bit more. It's
Y'all have it.
yeah, it's a beautiful sexual tonic as well. So you've got some more sexual fluids just coming in here and then. And you think about that over 40 years that you've kind of had these herbs coming in on and off, versus someone who waited till there was symptomology and they were sick to take a herb. You can see how there's the potential. You've had a little bit more health scope. You've had a little bit more like lifespan, right? So you're a little bit more able to like have the energy to work on yourself and observe yourself over that space of 40 years, and hopefully have a bit more of that kidney water sage energy, right? With, internally, it's super practical, and it's sometimes difficult because I'm a real off with the fairies, Peter Pan syndrome. I love talking in these riddles, and it's what attracts me to Taoism is these beautiful stories, and these stories of the immortals transforming themselves into dragons, and like through meditation, taking like shatavari and asparagus root, developing the capacity to fly, and all these kinds of things, and then but they're very practical things. The ability to fly and get a bird's eye view of your body as you're meditating or as you're going through life, to pause and just, these things are fucking so, we've all experienced it. And it's hard to market and not make these things like, ooh, want this thing?
Yeah, it does get a little hippy dippy, and people do see that. And I mean, going on what you were talking about, I mean, it is a prolonged and sustained practice, and you incorporate these herbs. There are so many of them, and you were talking about yin essence and nourishing that. I think that we are, the world in and of itself, I think we're forced to be in this yin state right now, right? Like we're forced to calm the fuck down. We're all staying home. We all are looking inward. We're all doing a lot of things. I think that, people are starting to think a little bit more about their health and wellness, because we realize how absolutely fragile it is. For somebody looking at like, hey, I want to get into this. All of this sounds great. I totally follow what you're saying. What are some sort of like, I mean, it's hard to say, because it's like, what are entry herbs? I mean, they're all sort of different, but like
There's definitely entry herbs though.
Yeah.
No, I've gotten better at doing that. Like, so there's always, because I'm always like, oh, possibilities are endless.
I know. It's like, stick out your tongue. Let me look at your hands. Let's talk about your Shen. And I mean, yeah, I also have stuff to talk about the Shen, because people are having weird ass dreams, and I'm like, ooh, your Shen is, yeah. But anyway.
So, but when you're beginning out, yes, there's many entries, and having a conversation, even bonus if you've got someone that can read your pulse and tongue. Generally at that point, we want to bring more of that into the household, and like maybe reading the iris and just understanding your own complexion, and watching your bowel movements so you can adjust what's going on within your diet and lifestyle. So that stuff should be on its way of developing that foci, and you can get a foci in a mirror to what's going on in yours and your family. If you don't have that, the general path, most of the time people are dealing with some level of exhaustion when they come to us at Superfeast. So that's where you mentioned the Jing formula. In the Superfeast kind of world, the Jing formula, we like formulas to start off with, because it takes the edge off, rather than working with individual herbs when you go into it. And tonic herbalism was generally, they were generally formulas, or a combining of herbs, making your own formulas. That's how it was practiced. And so you don't want someone to have to get 3 individual herbs and mix them all, in the beginning. So Jing formula is a way to start. That Jing essence, living in the kidneys, that's the source of yin and yang in the body. When you get that going, from an adaptogenic perspective, from a Western perspective, you get the adrenals a little bit more finely in tune with the hypothalamus and the pituitary for the HPA axis, and then the core tonality and symphony of your endocrine system can start getting a little bit more in tune. So it's not like the adrenals are exhausted; they're just out of time, so they can't they can't time it with the rest of the endocrine system when they're making their little minute secretions. And so, correlated with Jing essence and bringing a little bit more flow and cultivation through the kidney water system, of the Jing through the kidney water system, you find your endogenous ability to create energy comes back a little bit more. And so you psychologically can start detaching from the idea of a stimulant or your pure willpower needing to be the thing to energize you. And you start coming back from your edges of tiredness, and you start feeling your centered point of foundation. And you then the rule, and your own kind of like understanding of your own innate rules of what how do I live sustainably so I don't fall over those edges and become exhausted. And you go, right, it's okay to become tired, but when you get exhausted, we're leaking that Jing essence, and that's literally years of your life. And so we like starting with the Jing formula. That's most of the time people get that skip in their step and that bounce back. And sometimes people just start like with a quarter teaspoon of the extract powder and they add that in, or they get up to a teaspoon. Sometimes people really are craving it and need to do some deep work with the tonic herbs, with the Jing formula, Jing herbs. It's like the Rhamanias and the goji berries and the cordyceps and the eucomias and the dendrobium orchid there. And so they might even want to get up to 2 heap teaspoons a day. And then just know that that's a strong dose, and to honor that if you're instinctually feeling it, but then to remember when you're instinctually, when you feel like, I'm becoming a little bit reliant on this herb now, then you just back it off and take back to like a nice, I call a lifestyle dose, quarter teaspoon, 1 teaspoon. Paired with that, we generally go for the mushrooms. So these are the tree mushrooms. For those kind of like tuning into the conversation for the first time, we've got our culinary ones growing out of the soil. We're not talking about those. We've got our psychedelic mushrooms, not talking about those. We're talking about the medicinal mushrooms, generally growing from trees, sometimes from insects, like the cordyceps. Although if you're buying cordyceps, or getting the blend, it's a vegan. If it's a vegan one, just for anyone interested. So because the medicinal mushrooms are such potent chi tonics, spleen tonics, and just all-round protectors. They're doing a lot for the regulation of the water and the water chi in our body. And we've kind of discussed a little bit in the Western perspective that if you've lost your immunological momentum, so you have a deficiency, start building back, but then start building back your ability and your momentum of your immune system to, so you can just continue to embody that which is, yes, keeping you safe from pathogens, but then B, on the other side of that is like utter vitality. It's not just about pathogens, it's just about function and upkeep. And if you can get your immune system rocking, you get a little bit of calming of the nervous system as well coming through the Jing and the mushrooms, your nervous system can start down regulate a little bit. You're doing the work as well through the lifestyle and through your practices to come at life from a very balance between yin and yang, but sometimes you need to really do some conscious work on how to get down regulated into that rest and digest space, and you can approach life in a non-hyper way. Just as you said, everyone's getting smacked in the head, getting told to get inside and get yin. Suits us. We're in autumn. We're in descending yin time, so it's kind of more appropriate. You guys, you're in the spring vibes where it's ascending, and yet you still need, the West still needs to pay its bill. You need to pay your bill, as that's what my acupuncturist says, because I'm kind of still coming off the back of years of personal development and study and having a toddler and having a small business, and I'm at times I'm like, man, I'm still kind of like not like right on top, and I'm thriving and I'm going amazing, but he's just like, yeah, he's like you're paying your bill. It's like, don't care who you are, don't care how many herbs you take. Yeah, and so yeah, a little bit more difficult with you guys going this spring, but it's almost an ideal time because there's such a huge time of change in the world. It's a reminder that health from a like a Taoist perspective is just accepting that everything is just in a constant state of flux and change.
Yeah.
Pivotal text of Chinese medicine and Taoism is the Book of Changes, right? And it's just studying change and being like, sweet, all changing all the time, and to be able to take yang action in the face of that, and and actively evolve in the face of that, and stay in that place of cultivation and receiving and calm, a touch of nonchalantness maybe to get you in there in the beginning along the way. So through this huge time when everything's been shaken up, it's a really good time to like utterly transform the way that you approach life and yourself. It can be subtle, but it's still an utter transformation. I'm kind of doing that at the moment as well. It's been tough for me to like go in the middle of the day and really get the last of these sun rays. And, I've been sometimes spending like, 45 minutes there, just like soaking up all that sun naked if I can. And that's when you know that the business is rocking along. We've got our toddler full time at home. Tani's running the company as like the GM and all. Like I've really noticed my like clicking back over into that go mentality, and the guilt and all that kind of the classic like self love kind of stuff. But I've really I'm good at doing the self love stuff, but really tying it together and feeling the trajectory of where it's going to take me if I get super consistent with my boundaries. And that's what my acupuncturist was talking about the other day with work. He's like this constant overwork and this this sacrificial kind of nature, which is kind of maybe necessary in the beginning when you're birthing something new to spring. He was talking about it being like really poor work ethic, and it really hit me hard. I'm like, it's a ethically it's a bad way to be, and it's definitely like we're really rocking it, but we realize we can take it to a new level in our company, because it's like the hypocrisy of even being a little bit of a martyr and not respecting those autumn and those winter and yin times, in your own lifestyle, so that then that pours out, into the whole crew in the business and the business vibe itself. It's pretty big. So I think a lot of people can really stop being ambiguous with how much they need to grow, how healthy they need to get, how much wealth they need to accumulate. Stop being ambiguous with it. I definitely have been, and it's been useful for me going, bang, I'm really clear on kind of like where I'm going now and how much I need, not this perpetual growth model, that's why everyone's so burnt out of yin right now.
Completely. My light just went off and we're just dealing with it.
That's cool.
Shadowy. I love what you were saying. And I often say that people are overworked, over consuming, and undernourishing. And so then they're completely depleted, which, it isn't a good work ethic. This whole martyrdom of, and especially if you're running around for somebody else, it's like, wait a second, it's not cool at all. And I mean, we've all been victim to it. Well, maybe, at least I have. I mean, it completely destroyed my adrenals. It destroyed my gut. It destroyed everything. That stress, it was not great. But yeah, I mean, so, just learning more about Chinese medicine and all of these herbs, it's like, okay, I just need to honor myself, and I need to, start doing things that are in alignment with who I am, and, like living with the seasons. And it is a little bit hard. I do agree with you with, it is spring. So we are, it does feel like, okay, it's a little bit of growth, but at the same time, it's like, not yet. We're not there. We still need to, sow the seeds and, fertilize and all of that other stuff.
Well, you can like it can be a yin dominant year. It can be a yin dominant spring season, and you can learn how to honor and respect that ascending energy, and that visionary energy it takes. It's like the general in your body as well as the artist. It's taking stock of everything that you have, in that general mentality. It's like, how much, stock do we have? How many troops do we have? What's the lay of the land? Where am I at in life? Let's kind of like start thinking of where I'm going. That can be done calmly, super calmly. Like, and you can really respect that energy and gently, sowing those seeds. That for sure could be done. It's a misdemeanor, I think. Especially, in LA, I find LA fascinating. I'm quite happy that I get to kind of float in and out of the hecticness of the LA health scene, because there's this consistent gains doing a new thing kind of like there on the surface of the health scene. So it can be sometimes quite distracting from the nature of just how much yin and non-showboating needs to be going on with your health practice right now. It's like, it's not a time to do the big reveal a lot of the time of what you're doing. It's a lot of a lot of behind your own closed doors, a lot of subtlety as you gently coax this psychological evolution and energetic evolution of the way you're going to take your life. It's I think that's pretty necessary right now, and that can be hard when you know your wage is dependent on you peacocking on Instagram,
Yeah.
which I understand. It's but I think that's a good consistent conversation to have, and just really stay like that's this is like sacred for me. Share a little bit. I'm doing still doing this and I'm doing that, but that's all you get, and this is for me right now. Just do that for 5 years or so, because it's probably what it's going to take. A lot of like behind the scenes, really like understanding your yin, and it's hard to build yin, especially for women, building your blood back, because when women are running on blood, men are blood and running on chi, and so that's why like, oh gosh, wouldn't you know it? After women bleed, they need to especially be in a place where they're resting and nourishing and down regulating, because it's to build. Men have their own drawbacks, but building blood takes a lot of energy, and therefore, and likewise for men, building back, semen, just sexual fluids in general, replenishing your bone marrow. It takes a lot, and that's why we, like, right now, it's very that yin aspect really needs to get dialed in.
Could not agree more. I mean, I think the last time I saw you, we had lunch and I had just been diagnosed with celiac. And then,
Mm.
subsequent to that, I had found out that my ferritin level was extraordinarily low. It was 4, and it should be 20 to 200 nanograms. And so, to your point, like that replenishing of the blood, it's a lot. And I wasn't honoring that before. And it's like, okay, I really have to take that into consideration. So, you talked about getting some sunlight, getting, that proper vitamin D. What other things are you doing right now? I mean, what herbs are in your rotation for the right now of the world?
Uh, I'm doing. I am doing uh, a lot of warming and invigorating herbs. I'm really trying to invigorate my blood, so that's revolving around cinnamon and using a couple of classical formulas to do that, and ginger as well. I'm also personally working on getting my liver chi flowing, so I'm doing, there I've got a few Buplerium, a kind of like a Buplerium formulas, sometimes Free and Easy Wanderer. That's a little bit more on the fem estrogen mimicking side. So I'm just kind of like, I'm going through and trying out a few different Buplerium formulas to really get my liverwood flowing, because that's my my little space to be working in at the moment for myself emotionally, to get that flow. And then I just maintain, it's autumn here, so chi tonics, lung tonics. And so I'm taking a lot of our chi formula, and that's the astragalus, the white atractylodes, cotinopsis, poria, turkey tail, and a few others, to really tonify the lung chi. So the lung chi is well equipped to basically extract as much chi as possible. That's then being mixed with that gu chi from the spleen, from the food we digest, and then that becomes our true human chi, and then that's distributed through the body to daily give us our animation. So the yin aspect of that is going in through the inner organs and cultivating electromagnetic pulse through particular areas of the physical organs, but generally bringing a flow through the entire system. And then the yang aspects associated, especially through that lung extraction, through to the Wei Qi, which is our surface immunity here, which is, when there's infection in the air, when it's autumn anyway, going into winter, that's the Wei Qi, is what that Qi flowing through the subcutaneous tissue. It's our protective Qi. It's associated with, it's not surface immunity, but it's associated with our surface immunity. And so, phagocytic cell, natural killer cell activity, highly correlated there. And so herbs like astragalus and white atractylodes, you see that in the literature, that's what they're correlated with. And so I'm taking a lot of chi herbs, which is, that's one, generally, it's easy to talk about it here, because I'm like, people, let's take herbs, let's not get too reactive to what's going on around at the world at the moment. So it's an easy one to be like, well, good news is for us in the Southern Hemisphere, this is the time to take chi anyway. So it's not like out of step, But that's still, if anyone's feeling like they'd like to support that lung and that wheat chi, that surface protective chi in general. The chi formulas, they're the ones to be going towards. I always upkeep my medicinal mushroom action. I mean, there's just too much immediate benefit as well as a cumulative benefit, but immediate, like increase in immune activity and a real innate immune system level. So I'm kind of revolving around. I'm really trying to build my fire with my practice. So I'm really, through my movement practices through my friend Benny Ferguson, movement monk, and so I've been getting into some pretty deep perception of my tissues and reevaluating my motivation around movement, and really, while working on flexibility and strength, and allowing those two phenomena of flexibility and strength to unify and show that they actually can't be separated. Have really been allowing my intent to come through to see, like, well, why did what's my motivation for developing myself in those areas anyway, and just connecting to my 80 and 90-year-old self and feeling what's relevant there. And so I've been really getting some leaps and bounds in that area for myself, and real just relationship with my physical body, which is helping me, I feel, then, like circulate more, feel, like what's necessary. So for me, it's really necessary. I'm just, not letting that cold invasion in, it's like that's, in light of like the infection everyone's talking about, that's relevant as well anyway, but it's relevant when you're coming into the colder months anyway. So I'm a bit nonchalant with that. That's hence why I'm like really trying to build my blood, with my diet. I'm kind of like in a more of a kind of meaty place, like slow, stew kind of place with my diet, easily digested food, so I can build blood on that level, as well as then invigorating my chi and my blood, because that seems to be an area where, it's just going to be good for me to really develop that over the long term, so I can really start radiating that warmth. So I'm working on that. There's that old adage, that health from the Chinese perspective is warm feet, cool head, and so that's what I'm working on always. Maintaining warm feet and having my blood and chi flowing to the extent where my feet are perpetually warm, and I'm getting better. I'm wearing socks and all that, which I think everyone should be wearing socks. And
That's
if you're on tiles,
it's one of my big tips for people: put your socks on, because your chi, or your kidney chi, is on the bottom of your foot, so you're leaking that jing. But anyway,
phenomenal. Like warm water first thing in the morning, keeping socks on. It's maybe not fandangle. It's not going to become, LA's next big thing. But over like 10 years, 20 years, you're gonna save yourself a lot of taking one step forward, two step back, because And at the same time, I'm still like a barefootist here. Although I did get some sick shoes yesterday. My new Japanese tabby shoes. So these are my new barefoot shoes, because every other winter I've gone, I haven't had closed toe shoes. And so these are these tabbies. They're so good. So I've been kind of like running around in those, and they've got there's like no support going on there. So if you're a fellow barefootist that doesn't like shoes at all, this is the sports jog. And the company, I think on Instagram, if you just look up Japanese ninja shoes, it's well marketed. So I've been, but still running around outside, getting as much sun as possible, just trying to make sure I'm not, like, I've got a tendency to give me an inch, I'll take a mile. So, and that's where I'm really honing in with my acupuncturist. And that's actually what I'd really like to impart on everyone is, just because you've got it, don't give it. Don't give it to your personal practice. Don't give it to a big trail run. Keep it cultivating. If anything, let it pour into your own inquiry, or your family vibe and your heart. But don't go out and flog yourself, or start too many projects at this time. I think that's wise advice to follow. I can't say, because I'm still in that, in that flow. And I know it seems very obvious, but when you really reflect on yourself, how would you be if you didn't go out and try to, create a whole new, open up a whole new, kettle of fish with this collaboration. What if you just really drill down where you are? That has a lot to do with yin. If people are trying to feel how yin relates to them and their lives, it's a really good opportunity in this liver time in the northern hemisphere for you guys to be like, what's my vision, and put some caps on it, put some boundaries on it of what's, I don't really, what if we never get to travel internationally again? Deal with that. Oh, wow, okay. I'll never be able to travel. Not that that's like the case, but that's a good process to go through. Wow, you don't have the ambiguity of going, I'm going to travel there in my life and here in my life, and I'm going to create like a community, and I'm going to have like a clinic over here. Just start putting some caps on your vision so that your nervous system can just really settle down into what is, and just you basically at this time you figure out what you really desire, and it's not much, right? And then and
Yeah.
you'll have next spring to figure. You'll have next spring, like to really to build on that and build on that and build on that. So yeah, don't start too much, I wouldn't say. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. So warm feet, cool head, definite takeaway. I've got to use that.
Mm.
And just because you've got it, don't give it. I think that is a wonderful, wonderful piece of advice, because I know I'm guilty of like, oh my God, I want to do this. And I have like a list of projects. It's like, all right, slow your roll. Don't give so much away.
Yeah.
So I could talk to you forever, because I learn, like I said, I learn something every single time we talk. So many things. Where can people find you? Where can they buy Superfeast? And I'm such a fan. I have Jing and Chi right now, which,
Sweet.
yeah.
So you can find me personally, probably best on Insta, Mason J Taylor. Superfeast is just Superfeast, FEAST. The website's superfeast.com.au. But if you go to superfeast.com, we'll be launching in America soon. So you can go and pop your email down there to be notified when we can finally get around
That's like the
all
best
this,
I've gotten.
everything going on.
I mean, I'm fine, being shipped from Australia, but if it's closer, it's closer. That's great.
It's not. And that was a good practice in, just don't get caught up in this hustle lifestyle. If you're not built for it, and you're built for it for a little bit, but when you identify with it, when you identify as being part of the hustle, I mean, from conception to like, nearly at the reality of us launching in the States, it's probably been over 3 years. And I just really, in reflection, what I'll do next time is start off just with that, I don't know, just that like non-expectation, just slowly creating a plan, chip away on it. Let's, go in, and we don't get big investment, so it's just myself. And that's kind of where we're at now. We're like, cool, it'll happen when it happens. I'm not going to overpromise anything. I'm not going to get caught up in, what the market's telling me to, in terms of you've got to catch this wave and you've got to catch that wave. And, like there's just, if you go on, if you forge in your own road in business or whatever, there's just nothing to compete with. There's no market. There's, there's to an extent there's a market, but not really. So we're just kind of going slow and steady, and it feels good on the nervous system to not have pressure on ourselves around like the launching in the US anymore. But it'll happen. It'll happen very soon. We're working pretty hard on it, behind the scenes.
That's
But
like good news. I love it. Thank you so much for this. And it's good to catch up and see you and talk all things tonic herbalism. If you have any questions, comments, or anything for Mason, leave them below. I will include where you can find him in the comments. And thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
see you
Bye.
guys.